Track 18.
Excuse me, could you tell me how to get from the Jing'an Temple to the Peace Hotel?
Yes. The best way to get from the temple to the hotel is to take the metro. It's really much faster than taking a taxi or a bus. You travel 2 stops and get off at the People's Square. When you come up to street level, you just walk along Nanjing Road East.
Oh, yes, I've heard of Nanjing Road. Is that the pedestrian mall?
Yes, that's right. So there's no traffic there, which is good. The mall is packed with people and there are all sorts of shops to see there. New buildings, old buildings, you name it. Anyway, at the end of the mall is an area called the Bund, and the Peace Hotel is on the left-hand corner of this. There's a pedestrian tunnel which runs under the Huangpu River, known as the Tourist Tunnel, and the entrance is just outside the hotel. The tunnel comes up at the Oriental Pearl Radio and TV Tower, which is one of the most famous landmarks in Shanghai.
Oh, thank you so much.
Track 23.
Jim Talk is editor of the monthly automobile magazine Steering Wheel, and he's here to tell us about a recent study they've done.
Hello.
Now, let's start with how you went about your study.
Well, we picked 4 similar cars in 4 different categories and compared a number of features. To ensure objectivity, we refer to them here as vehicles 1, 2, 3 and 4.
OK, so tell us what you looked at.
Well, we tried to balance the good with the bad. For instance, the first car we tested had quite comfortable seats, was well finished, but the passengers complained that it was cramped, especially in the back seat. It proved very economical on fuel, so good for city driving.
But not the car for tall people, eh? And the next one.
Well, by contrast, when it came to petrol consumption, Vehicle 2 proved far from economical, but did have the advantage that you could go from 0 to 100 in only 8.2 seconds. Good on the corners, so good road holding, but definitely not cheap at $85,000.
Bet I can guess what car that was.
Well, our findings on Vehicle 3 were quite interesting. It appeared to be good value for money and so looked attractive, but in fact we found that many standard features are not included in the price, such as air conditioning and remote locking, so the buyer needs to be aware of this.
Yes, I've noticed that many manufacturers now include a lot of things that you used to have to pay for.
Exactly. By contrast, Vehicle 4 had a great many features included in the price, and so is good value for money, but our test drivers found that they were not able to see well through the rear window, especially when reversing. So this is a potential danger, and something we felt the manufacturers had overlooked.
Track 24. A. You will hear a discussion between a number of students about an assignment.
Oh, hi. I thought I might find you two here in the library. How are you going with this assignment on road transport?
Not well. I just don't seem to be able to get hold of any of the textbooks that the lecturer put on the reading list.
No, neither can we. They're either out of print or out of the library.
B. You will hear an interview with a transport specialist.
Dr. Manfredi, welcome to Radio Affairs.
Thank you for having me on the programme, Julia.
Now, there's been a lot of discussion in the media recently about the new tunnel which has been built to carry traffic under the city of Sydney. It's been open for 18 months, but practically nobody, it seems, is using it. Is that because it's too expensive?
Well, it's a very complex issue.
C. You will hear some people talking about funding at the university.
Oh, hi, Murray. Hello, Jan. How's it going? Oh, not too good by the look on your faces.
Yeah, well...
What's the problem?
Well, we're having a lot of trouble getting more funding for our research centre for next year.
Basically, if the government doesn't come through with the $500,000 they'd initially promised us, we're going to have to close down the centre and lay off our 2 PhD students.
I see.
D. You will hear a discussion about some students' work.
OK, so let's have a look at the final marks for this group. Sandra, have you got the marks for the end-of-term exam?
Well, there is a bit of a problem because several of the students were away for the exam and so they've had to sit a supplementary and we're still waiting for Mary to get back to us.
But overall, the standard was well above average for this group, and I think we should feel quite happy with their performance.
Track 32.
John Getnick is with us in the studio tonight to talk about the origins of the game chess. Welcome, John.
Thank you. I'm sure you're all familiar with the wonderful game of chess, but have you ever stopped to think where it came from and when? Well, we believe the game dates back to before AD 600 and was first played in either Afghanistan or what is now northern India. The oldest written references that we have to chess date from then, but there are claims that chess existed earlier than this. We think the version played by Europeans and Americans today travelled through Iran to the main commercial centres of Europe by the year 1000. The game was then taken to Scandinavia by the seafaring Vikings, so by the 1400s chess was played throughout Europe. There are quite a few variations to the game found in other parts of the world. For instance, one variation called shogi is played in Japan. Another variation is played in China. One person whose name stands out in the history of chess is the chess master Howard Staunton. Staunton lived in England in the mid-1800s and gave his name to the chess pieces that are still used in competitions all over the world today and are, in fact, synonymous with the game. Other shapes and sizes exist, but these are by far the most common. Interestingly enough, however, the idea of chess competitions is relatively recent when we consider how long the game has been in existence. The first championship was played in 1866 in London and was won by a man from Bohemia called Steinitz. He was, in effect, the world's first official champion, and he held the title until 1894, when he was beaten by a German called Emanuel Lasker, who in turn lost the title in 1921 to a Cuban called Capablanca. Many people today consider Capablanca as one of the top 3 players ever to live. His game influenced many who followed him, and keen professional players today still study his game.